Someone's gonna be here.
Can you send it to you?
Yeah. I just replied to this cat.
Yeah,
I assume that works. Okay.
Wait,
Yeah. What's up?
I'm not on the chat.
Scouting check.
Not on the scouting chat.
Ooh. We can
You
add.
see me on the scouting chat?
We have the issue on last page. If you reply all and add it.
We should also talk to the re-update your scouting chain thing.
Wait, yeah, no, they just put the wrong people in here because they've got Melanie and Palmer from Liberty. And, yeah, it's Liberty EH. It's
Yeah.
Weird.
Should I just make a new one wholesale?
You can do that too. That's fine.
that's
Although we should still add scouting chain, whatever it is, to be docs and
Sure.
scouting director, etc.
that's really weird.
She is?
Yeah, well, yeah, and then on the ton of the scouting change the last round, just the subjects were all wrong. So there was the round registration, they had all the right people on there, but the subject was submitted.
What emails did you have?
The UMass.
So they're doing it the same.
Rashid. Rashid.
Yeah, I got that one. Wait.
My UMass one.
CJANVIER. Adidas.
CJANVIER.
Yep.
At umass.edu.
Yep.
Okay. What does this guy? Just this scouting director.
I think so. That should be good enough.
All right.
Can you add me to that?
Sure.
So
1 second. Oh, I do.
That's the big scout.
Yeah, I don't understand.
What's your email?
Chana, CHANNA dot.
Drew at gmail.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Subject. All right. I sent it. So hopefully this works. Let me know when everyone's good to go.
I have it. Claude does not have it. You already used. Oh, we got it.
Got it? Okay. Anyone not good? Sweet. The advantage autonomous more the military is racing towards fully autonomous weapons to maximize efficiency, drives unaccountable systems, disregard legal norms, technology makes you more a fully autonomous machines and inevitable combat is going to be faster than humans, even before product competing, faster shooters, test standards, adversaries, and allies, have to adapt, be left out, games introduced, kind of system missile, in this bill where everything wants to despite destabilization robots, do not need to their functional machines to replace humans, their planet, knowledge can do without, one display of just knowledge to be given, submission of a cheating objective who carries self find machines, construction, considered, machines, so objectives, really achieve your person destroyer, rhetorically, arms to be foolish, compromisement, humanity to fail, as far as compelling, checks are non existent, humans, military, loop, structurally flawed. Adjustment to simplifications for military system and also automate C2, automate confidence in science, strike, probability, comparison, manifestation, humans, for AI function, and our speed, and military shape cycles by AWS has the reliability improves, concentration increases, communications for edge, test machine, incorrect energies, automation bias, penalties, consumer, predisposed to use AI, destroys humans, human, and what kind of fall, recommendations, exploit, in psychology experts, recognizing vision, that arises from conflating human machine, higher stations, nuclear, enterprise, scientific, community loop, does not lead the bias increases, license, makes human attentive, global controls fall through, and class weapons will bring back interstate work, economic you, control shipments, feature banning does not work, any further than outline for kind of weapons nukes, despite your power limited, never try banning not work even, needed the US deadly nuclear nukes, strategy will not help in improve multimedia competition, mandatory comeback every range, speed value will count towards driving any human loop and disadvantage. Countermeasures will be deployed. Never fire for increased autonomous machines be possible to shield and given choice all, but as that instruction or accomplish mission no matter what kind of fighting, even after kind of slapping God. That also state incentives encouraging aggressive behavior. Miles 19 unwilling shape structure which superiors not very shape incentives, creating offensive and defensive action, create uncertainty, misunderstanding, making it appear to take all, create complication, incentives of key states, and accelerate trend towards animals and prospects of fighting, give powerful states, leaders, and challenges combinated to big involvement, speed, alone, board decision making, matching, and escalate pressures. Johnson, 22 versions of multiplayer defeat escalation to nuclear combination, and supply link, Christina, new forces and turns makers have time needed to CNC, risk inherent NC3, reflecting evolution of human thinking, and uncertainty will be amplified by the AI, speech, cross comprehension, race, escalation chart, slippery slope, of the responsibility, independently autonomous systems make mediation impossible. Levy 20 yes, fight with disconnected C2, on which you guys will be targeted, needed to be vulnerable and degraded C2, ability to fight independent, existence satellite, autonomy, disrespect, crafting weapons, reducing for human control, autonomous, launch before ceasefire, pick up action, worship, attack on reception, hostilities, ongoing, still be stocks and race, credibility, parties promise to hold fire, that causes nuclear escalation for misstated objectives, pressures during crises, and the AI expansion, Bolt 41, adverse AI safety and proper precautions, reduce misstated objectives, and specification gaming, which would be military conflict, crisis escalation, perhaps with your worst, returns, create pressures to preempt misperception of the capabilities that represents excellent towards ground catastrophic damage would be done AI stick up the auction of the year, launch all nukes, vetted the airborne virus, packing for laws, release cost of war, making like detention, military engagement, loss, my escalate on crisis, the mere perception, and actually has lost my escalate crisis, nuclear war intensifies physical and psychic suffering, ICRC, no weapons, protective, causes of equal suffering, and there's no way to control fodder, effect thousands suffering, trees, and exposures to nuclear, disrupt the accident resistant result temperatures, resulting in future distress, high never been notification deal with the consequences, even absent nuclear war unaccountable, military AI unleashes drones, forms, clarifying liabilities, critical summer 21 DOD, introduce AI using not make private death falls and attacks the line through launch weapons and enable the first use for AI was supposed to move public directions for weapons just forming warrants about autonomous weapons, thousand drones program to hunt people workers, how much time before they best reality, not much reality of communication about when this forms of information the US has following through the weapons bureau so powerful as because by the these forms described as Salabas, fighting forms of commander against flying. Like goes to someone with what you need effective assassinations, functions H2 deal guidelines of deliberation, enforcement makes it point who would be accountable for the ground be programming manufacturer aggressors have to be addressed. Road forms guarantee WMD level attacks, accountability is critical to contain escalation, count 141 autonomous forms or future WMD scale of death as nukes, crab, mass casualty tactical assassination forms, highly effective system chemical bioweapons, causing combining conventional and chemical form worsening roads form creates escalation, risk form kill soldiers not involved, plan, meditation, best legal duties, and artificial intelligence and significantly restrict autonomous weapons, finally solvency define best duties, autonomous AI systems are restrict their use and shut down dangerous systems and forces responsible deployment, narrow 16 who is liable? You see, brought by any person in our forces 25. I think you can get away. 6 not a person, 25 can't be person. Any less person corporation, more so person. Any corporation have decent day. Military tribunals 25 should be person. Any person domestic naturally because many persons long understood include objects liable for death issue. Rules which have been around for years. Because liability is unstable. US lines system colonies were gone remote before fitted no strictly Johnny. The vessel like vessels and corporations. The person museum today Rome and any other ILS such Johnny liable because Captain they shot Johnny. Captain liable. Captain nothing. Captain Johnny entails decommissioning. They qualifies the person subject to using data. The courts have utilized responding to bureau normally is Captain liable. So is the US the whole because US had an employee. And comment this was also negative utilization to be made for operations and correct under human responsibility vested in Giordani, most care operations paid by creators resulting from pressure on the time to create ethical machines for financial but also always purposes on manufacturer. Once we want to create codes, document kind of make the complete criminal and civil remedies to also turns to conditioning and repurposing ads and turning the term manufacturers converting malfeasance AL legal personalities necessary to patch up liability gaps that require question to holding any years person accountable for being a team. There are challenges including crime laws under existing duty tax challenge trace linkage to murder and employer official crime maybe lack of proximity defense farming lack of south and how laws designed there's no link in policy and laws architecture of physical no accountability individual not involved in scheme and responsibility or accountability against officials doctrine will apply to reason means fear and law responsibility and superiors have authority of subordinates superiors have ability to prevent offenses require effective control does not advocate interfacing laws and individual laws guided by self-harm lacks the ability to prevent laws from triggering a crime of official issue orders or expected obedience of individuals not subordinate any organizations produce or components for laws post challenge for accountability most corporation manufacturers there'll be numerous individuals collaborating posts and positions being design complexity makes challenging to impede negligence and true responsibility to developers laws is unworkable requires either accessory to crime individual perpetrated develops laws can't perpetrate crime because law is not a person that like to develop NACS directors no duty would not buy weapons designed to bring about crimes and of course the affirmative just laws endorse NAI you should not conflict with sense of human with AI develop separate category for laws bans of toothless regulations starting the national level paves way for disarm lose 15 and rating FWs results in accountability laws not across standards weapons distinguished these millions do not cause fortune damage if there's going to be duty handles accountability commanders supply and carry compliance with law states more like complying I've rejected and not clear brands be effective everybody has to go revolutionize wars that would be biggest advance since gunpowder are realistic to expect cross banning from delegated states abuse even if ban has successful nations interpret terms related to many fraud FAWs or violated prohibition ways of escape protection federal approaches to establish limitations and specific rules alignments cost conditions illustrate U.S. China Russian Indian decline invoking necessity nation abuse nations that like to accept and relegate best by local compliance with distinction and proportionality of other things to arguments most nations invest to food and current compliance with regulations cause that works out based on law like nations specific codes running the hard law treaties the advancements that use build regulations right the factor impacts are real and not constructed predictions are based on rigorous experts and online the mission bureaucracies looking for enemies to spread their missing committed inflationist theory of why the U.S. would magnify threats against goal and body functionality of between parameters, especially threats, behavior, tends to be transparent and peer-reviewed decision makers. The frame problems and accurate intelligence, professional accuracy, structure, for objectivity, said security, structured reviews, and rationalizing filtered out. People are fired for analysis predictions, rent seeking risk termination, avoiding extinction is necessary and valuable. Sequencing match features with the external stand time, imagining features when she become extinct, having not good, a crooked effort, just with your issue, competence, politics, responsibilities, sensations, where two basic awareness is survival, nuanced policymakers and public industry, how they can react now and subsequent survival later, scars to be fair, think the worst, and the established premise of the world, futurism is necessary to survival, and seniors not our review progress, single ways for seeking time, marginalizes and diminishes, contingency of actors and change, agencies have temporarily closed, it is proven to contingency, reject epistemic purity, pragmatic solutions, even when imperfect or necessary, drivers, 2K, technological motivation, actually, this in place, for those who struggle with efforts to the oppressed and help solve wars, speak to those who devise policy, knows for the problem solving experience, bad idea, of navigating the hope, solving guys, loans, confront what's into big words, a bit of epistemology being helpful, the process, policy, debate, refines gainful literacy, and gives students their improbable, logical, critical skills necessary to stop really captured institutions and resist violent policies, links existing students, develop info, literacy, make arguments empowering for student able to recognize when information needed, policy, paper, basis, go beyond basic info, achieve enterprise credibility, coping, and while and infographic, can the students recognizing how knowledge can be effectively translated without institutions can disseminate facts, so it requires more time using the Iraq war, facing the fact that Saddam had weapons, is precisely a policy debate, is a valuable complement students can learn to access knowledge sources, speaking in the facts and fact finding, even low increases in technical knowledge, translates to increase in political self-efficacy, policy debate, students know engage, social conditions, while challenging to apply, knowledge for political advocacy, debates, feeling political learning, building engagement on using this knowledge, public argument about, and by students to move beyond single disengagement, yet is valuable regardless of times like the recording creates advocates that can synthesize and engage in complex negotiations, and being compatible problems. Verse 17. Even if it implies more proudly and clever how policy analysis teaches up politics foundation, how the factors critical to outcomes and play key roles in thinking through ways to address political thinking policy inspiration as a root skill teaches system thinking important analysis. The analysts not only have problem oriented interdisciplinary approach and the ability to synthesize and policy of those problems, but they understand the system policy analysis just kind of arguments and frame analysis, recognizing alternative options, mental health policy analysis, advanced policy debate, and policy orientation focuses attention on social problems such as expediency and liquidity, critical roles to intermediaries to understand, interpret the authority level, can expert knowledge and analysis policy, conflict and security predictions are epistemically accurate board through team building models, research towards better theory, good explanations during accurate predictions, even probabilistic predictions becomes harder to like advantageous models requirements to understanding precise level theoretically motivated models for findings accessible to wider audience during predictions gives answers to so what during the Vietnam steam credit facilities and studies make progress promoting anti nutrition listening to analysis social dynamics like the trial differently mostly with sparks play futures and every crisis we should strive for identification for general mechanisms that make predictions about future events ability to predict future crisis can be the gold standard study of conflict based crisis.
You have a timer I can borrow by any chance?
I know. Oh, sure. That works.
Is it good? All right. All right, you good? Okay, so first line of the AFF says you're racing to develop military. Who are you racing against?
The military is trying to increase autonomous weapon capacity because they perceive adversaries.
Who are the adversaries?
Well, the U.S. would probably say there are other states like Russia, China, perhaps Iran. North
Okay,
Korea.
so how do those adversaries influence military development?
The United States looks at the behavior of those countries and says, if we don't get weapons, they'll have them.
Okay. Your plan says you should vest legal duties in AI that significantly restrict autonomous weapons. What's an autonomous weapon?
I don't know if the 1AC included a definition of autonomous weapon. Colloquially, it's weapons that rely on AI for targeting, for movement, for precision capabilities.
Okay.
We haven't
What does that
defined
mean?
it.
If like a hypersonic, like you said, targeting, like let's say a hypersonic uses collects data through AI, and then that, influences
Yeah, hypersonic AI capabilities would likely be covered by the plan.
Okay, but what about stuff that uses AI to collect data about where to strike?
That's likely covered.
That's likely covered? Is it covered or no?
Well, if we to pick, we're going to say it doesn't compete on board with the plan, but we think the most likely application of the plan does cover those weapons.
Okay. Your mass evidence about state incentives, what's the relationship between decision makers in debate and decision makers in policy?
I'm not sure as to the particular.
Can we influence state incentives?
I don't think this debate influences state incentives.
Okay. Now, also a similar line of questioning. What's the relationship between debate and the skills we get from debate?
Well, we debate about things, and then we know what to advocate for. We lead debate. That's
Okay.
one possible relationship. But our
How do we know what to
that
advocate
There's
for?
not that much to it. How do we know what to advocate for? Well, we see what was capable of overcoming objections. We analyze what the literature and experts support, and we come to a more informed conclusion overall.
Okay. Why do you want to win debates?
Because debate's a game.
So you want to win the game?
We want to win the debate, yeah.
Okay. Why do you want to win this tournament?
Similar reasons. I mean, it's been a goal for quite a while.
Is it different from any other tournament?
It's like numerically the last tournament of the season or of my
I
season.
mean, you're not going to CETA?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So what's the relationship between trying to win debates and individual rounds?
Well, we try to win individual rounds, and then those kind of stack up, and you go like 4-0 or 4-1 and 5-0. So,
Okay, but you know what I'm getting at. Why does this round matter? Does this round matter to you individually?
it'd be unfair if you just like arbitrarily voted against us in round 2.
Okay, but would it make you sad maybe?
I don't know. Like it depends.
Okay, well,
It's a lot to consider there.
you're taking like a semester off basically to debate, right? So
That's not true.
well, you're taking one class. Like,
It's a pretty important class.
what's the class?
It's philosophy of language.
Oh.
That's my fault. I made the new one and didn't. I can just reply out with your email before you send me.
So.
You're in.
Is it Kelly Field 2020?
Yeah, I just replied to that though.
Oh,
It's whatever it is.
bro, how do I make this 9 minutes?
Clear 900.
Okay, you're done.
Yeah.
Okay. You'll get it?
Yes.
You ready?
Yeah.
United States should call KFS duties and could restrict autonomous weapons innovation could be functionally technically installed in sociality constructs with and non-innovation languages that adapt to environmentalization. There's nothing starting the development of English such as Indian, the process of innovation triggered by structural changes and this way like the development of world English to investigate the ways in which meaning potentials. No, by adding further dimensions to language semantics, the clause level Indian English makes systematic choices between terms of relation and the following is perfectly grammatical. We went to the Thanksgiving party yesterday and enjoyed the mental state is not involved react. It's non-volitional event because hence it's non-volitional does not have to be used in a transitive verb in tense aspect of choice of the past, present, and future, imperfect and perfect. Between the nature, neural, and imperfect and derivative and imperfect and discrete tense distinctions are secondary. This grammatical to use for present and perfect with independent past and perfect physical innovations are data set social cultural context and extend the meaning potential. No flexible items to concrete objects, no abstract entities, needs to relate to the abstract notion of environment or God's Indian context, social culture context, and appropriate organization, discourses, much grammar, and lessons and studies to show performance of speech acts of our human affection illustrate the process of innovation at this level. Next off the xenophobia, okay, this is DUH. No Bureau of better noise suited against the social political and organized Asian balance. If you any American exceptional, this establishes a not feedback loop that proliferates until slips or upset, conflates your and their methodical death of the abundance of trust against 20. The new China Spirit Service, we're encountering the third yellow power of Oregon. China may be awakened, refine some of the deficiencies of American up here, paranoid, be carved into the many, into the mindsets, here, cultural fear seem to be a forceful mechanism of indoctrination in the 21st century. We engage over frequently fear as propaganda, individual fears again manifest a stereotyping of an entire nation. They go for them job insecurity, health care, low wages, lack of safety, and blame stereotypes to impede our ability to objectively assume data or remedies to think critically predict their behavior. This will weaken people that select information that suit their or silly that suit their orientation, ethnonationalism gives right to or and tells them the mythology of enemies, spending information, populist chauvinism, xenophobia, Americans, scapegoats. No globalization, American promise to assist with decline, intimidation, propaganda, encourage the Chinese Exclusion Act attack on Pearl Harbor, the name of national security, American treating Chinese students as scholars as the new Euro power in the witch hunt of the worthy of McCarthy. The McCarthy relationships are always overdetermined. Do not make me prepared to visit for xenophobia, Schengen, Jin, and the 20 Indian anti-Chinese and political correctness, Iranians, Indian scholars who hold friendly views on China, very difficult to speak up. Pressing China, have been saying something that's violent, extremely anti-Chinese sentiment will bring them double criticism for being non-patriotic Indian scholarship or prepared to face steadily speak, possibly when speaking about China's sphere. Then China when winning philosopher academic teachers the scholar stands correction the app creates a cultural publicity to dial some proven by how the app implicitly refers to China as the people that they're racing against and simultaneously emboldens Asian violence, putting it to the side as unimportant or justified intervening at the level debate is important to correct for victim aspiration 20 years in anti-Asian racism around the globe book pre-existing representations of Asians again commentary the commentary dismissing the suffering of the effective people to suggest that they deserve that white supremacy produce hostile indifference to journalists and academics and often downplay I dismiss sort of the fun on some have claimed that you see analysis and focus intellectually lazy others have claimed that associations of xenophobia only valid if they denounce harms of Chinese states such as Xinjiang, the concentration collective authorities did also minimize the psychological, political, or moral implications that conventionally follow these statements or access forms of dogmas of politics. Yes, you are sovereign, but let's focus on the real issue. We need to realize what we can do to intervene in the spread of anti-racism, racism where we are, where our speech acts are heard, interpreted, and help alleviate the suffering of those around us. What negative to resist compulsion to align your opinions with the objective scholarship or intellectualism operates as the politically neutral field funded on fundamental integrity of U.S. Empire, the vast imperial conquest is legal in 17 Asian Americans split off with racial nation domestically without integrated fair American Asianness constructed this direct cultural opposites Americanness called the collective individualistic seemingly politically neutral tone. They significant narratives of Asian cultural stereotypes continually revive as $1 production. They superstitious, irrational, and inscrutable, selfless, and coherent, constituted to again, and courageous psychological imagination, and theoretical interpretation, replicating the cultural essentialist of Cold War paradigm of the Western nation about bolster American imperialism to make this Asian Americanness the best policies, contest the stagnant borders of the nation, state citizenship and racial identity, knowledge production, violence of the things that disruptions of history, policy, and the same identities and symbolic representation of the form within, not centered within constitution, the objectivity of global diversity, American, Asian American spatial position, and racial futurity.
Next off is the cycler K. At the heart of vesting legal rights and the duties is the process of human warning that attempt to overcome human reification by enchanting the world. Code Book 23, legal personhood, currency mattering, sees in New World 1, humans can find ourselves again, and systems that we might see into the life of things continues to attempt to re-enchant the world. We kind of know humans as persons cannot return home, yet no one world that might offer refuge. It's time to consider not adding agency things, like questioning whether the form of humanity that is bound up with the life of things. Also define the Anthropocene, the problem of the things, reification, commodification, disenchantment is bound up with the formation of the human shapes of empire that were lifeless for some, created later condition of verification world. Personhood sustained the sense of the normal value of the world to be is to exist in a forming relation to things. Granting life to all things intensifies the culmination and transition of things. Anthropocene is the event, not a thing, or personified thing in general maintains the subject concept of thing. The alternative is to constitute a natural politics of care that refuses to vest illegal personality within the knowing politics of articulation, only operating at the level of socially itself can rupture the extrinsic drive towards extinction. This is Title 17. The increasing entropy at the core of global transition can be inverted via natural and human entity optimization led to the decline of wage labor and the disappearance of the Keynesian model that communism produced as leveling all values. The economy to come will overcome the 6th entry at the time that separates us from the end is inevitable. We should be able to redefine economy through economy desire through psychic and collective individualization. At stake is a cosmic population that destroys differences of orders by constituting another order of magnitude. The rich consume support the poor losses, creating abstraction that leads to slavery. The expenditure of the capitalists to aid the productively bear witness to their apathetic interests. This must be translated into an alternative politics. Then he's acting by a computational capitalism results in the total proliferation of the mind itself to fight against is to prescribe a new state of the law that recognizes universal decay on this inhabited earth. One AC must use the 3-tier process. Academics without personal experience or organic intellectual violates crowds out minority participants. Read Brinkley 8. A 3-tier process can validate claims through personal experience, organic intellectuals, and academic intellectuals with 3 claims as singular perspectives that privilege intersectional power. While debaters see the benefit of research, they are aware of normative practices that excludes minorities from policy because of lack of training, use of personal experience, take against homogeneous expert discourse, lack of grounded academic studies to represent an object distance with presents development of polity rooted in the community of those affected. The plan uniquely incentivizes developers and operators to reduce oversight, avoid liability, and blame AI. Elliott 22. Humans would exploit AI to hide culpability. Developers to try to emphasize AI, not the company. People can be tricked. The thing is, legally today, there's not recourse to go after AI. You presume humans of the company had legally accountable. Personhood is going to radically change. Putting of fingers legally. AI pursued for redress of still possible criminal awareness of challenges. Whereas today's hiding is not going far. The game becomes viable if AI personhood and was facing responsibility and liability. Responsible people will do this, care, and engineering, marketing, and use. Someone might know they bear misconduct. Once we allow personhood, the doors open. Shield bearing, Pandora's box, and not a possibility someone is unchecked. We'll go along with AI to wait and see, as AI will be a scapegoat. Defective AI systems can cause cascading and catastrophic cyber attacks. BW18. Preventive measures that reduce risk from unintended consequences. Essential AI-powered software could reduce cyber risk, but could increase risk if hackers take control of machines. AI could enable serious cyber incidents by lowering the cost of attacks. Programming errors could be replicated. A half outage as a cloud provider generates losses around 850 million. nuclear war. 4-19, IoT, cyber Armageddon. The bulletin called the threat of insecure devices, attacks, and grid sabotage, or the infrastructures could escalate to shooting, nuclear war, sabotage of the fear that could control major financial and power interests, could inspire responses involving nuclear weapons. Plans can solve escalation risk versus scope. The AFF only imposes duty on artificial intelligence weapons. These only apply to offenses, strike systems that physically target and applies force. Bologna L21 definition of AWS weapons once activated can identify and select targets and apply force. AWS the core features pre-programmed target profiles and technical indicators triggered to apply force by environment. 2, their internal links to escalation are based on AI augmented surveillance capabilities. They are weapons. Johnson 21 and characteristics the NC3 systems infused with AI and machine learning is a vast quantity of data collected to inform decision making. AI machine learning, cyber surveillance together with AI pattern recognition can enhance ICR capabilities. Quantity of influence can increase escalation risk. Decision-making dependence produced by complex systems can exacerbate decision info and decision-making by clustering. Cyber ops can narrow crisis bargaining, increasing risk of nuclear warfare and misprotection info is the established cause of deterrence failure in IR. Second is capabilities under emerging tech threatens strategic stability. Any of these sufficiency, the AFF, Justin 21, increasing use and development of advanced weapons, hypersonic vehicles, dual-use missile, anti-satellite, and dual-use NC3, but
Where that happens to NC3.
Yeah.
Good.
One second. Which market? Wait, where'd you stop? NC3 what?
Johnson 21, dual use and C3.
That's what I said.
Cyberspace what?
Dual-use NC3.
Good?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so case, the last thing you read was the top of this Johnson card. Did you skip any of the off?
No.
Okay. The counterpoint, what mandate of the plan does it exclude?
What do you mean?
Does it exclude mandate of the plan?
What is mandate?
A function that the plan fiats.
Maybe. Who knows the function of the app?
Okay, so it's not clear if it does.
You haven't clarified what the app did in the 1AC cross-sex. You haven't
All right,
spoken
what do you
again.
think it needs?
What does the plan do?
It bests the duties in AI. Does the counterpoint do that?
Yes.
Okay. The xenophobia critique, what about the one I see was xenophobic?
It's a question of implicitory denialism. We think that even if you win a no link, it's irrelevant.
What did we deny implicitly?
Our argument about the notion of what we forefront, the way in which military violence undergirds,
Right, so what did we fail to forefront?
the way violence is enunciated and carried forward through language is not explicit but implicit. That means that the way in which
Explain the implicit thing that the one I see did.
the notion of who are we racing against is going to be relevant for the link argument of the 2 and C.
So we've criticized the one I see thinking, or the U.S. thinking that it has to engage in the AI arms race. How does that link to the K?
The arms race is against China, and we think that notion of
It
framing
exists now.
arms race. Hold on. The notion of framing arms race does not exist in a vacuum.
Okay. Do you have a link that you think does not apply to the status quo?
What do you mean by that?
Do you have a link that you think is germane?
You're not going to go
the
for a
1C
link to
and
the
not
AFS
status quo?
reps or about the status quo. It's
Very
relevant. It's about your
well.
representation.
Um,
It's better. Like
Okay, you've criticized objective scholarship. What type of scholarship should we produce?
so, objectivity is irrelevant.
Okay, so we shouldn't care about having a relationship to truth with the real world.
So if we Google something and we think it's correct, it's irrelevant.
So again, same question. We shouldn't try to, adopt truthful beliefs or care.
Well,
about
that's different from
accuracy.
saying that this thing is objective. So when you say in process, this is how shit
The one
works.
he said objective, like the word.
No, it's about your position to things that are objective.
But you said objective.
You said
is not the
it's
same as
what
truth.
you said is seeking truth claims. It's very different from
Okay. explain the
saying
difference.
something's objective.
Explain the difference.
In fact, that's the opposite.
Explain the
It's
difference.
the opposite to say something is objective.
Okay.
How are you supposed? Okay, dude. You say something is objective. Is that a truth-seeking claim or is that a dogmatic "I'm Raphael, believe me" claim? It's a dogmatic
you
believe
tell
me.
Okay, so like 2 + 2 = 4. Can we say that's an objective?
I mean, you can code ChatGPT to know that 2 + 2 = 5.
Okay.
Have you seen those TikToks? I'm off TikTok.
All right, Steiger K, what's human worlding?
I'm not sure. I'm not going to make a claim about human worlding. The link is basically that capitalism doesn't operate materially, but psychologically. We have like a attention deficit, ADHD.
And that applies to the 1C at all.
Well, the link is about personhood or relationship. The way you vest personhood instantiates psychological capital, and it's too focused on material.
10 minutes. Everything's condo as you. Yeah, condo.
Yeah.
Okay, I gave you this if you want. Yeah, it's talking to this here. Should I just say it first now? Let's see. I don't know what's going on. I can pull it up.
The order is the advantage, topicality, or T3, and then the language pick, the xenophobia K, the Stigler K, and then the liability.
You do it one time, sorry.
Yeah, case 3 tier, the language pick, xenophobia K, Stigler K, and then.
Okay.
Can you just-
I'm not ready. Give me a sec to pull my stuff. You send it out.
Did everything?
Okay, my things are sliding.
Right?
Yeah. It's just opening one second. Okay, let me pull my flows. I'm ready.
Okay,
Our police, which insults peace and performer, body that gives views, assumes promoting their politics, abstract, also zero. Stealing to what you do externally acts as a process or process. Outside of space, all stability goes now. We don't need to be impossible now. The language of permutation to do with the carbon perfectly plan. Endorse the counterplans vernacular counterplans state functionally textually kind of few after clash. And research functions only include natives of the planet. Death benefits. The opportunity cost the widely known death benefit. English is not intrinsic to the planet. It would be translated by diplomats introduced to other countries if they don't translate their text to decide. Solve it if they do, for something from you. Changes to language, discourse picture unfairly with what he sees, chooses, and shifts in literature to applicable focus. They don't solve any of their offense. It justifies, and they included traditional English in the text, which co-opts solvency, or justifies permutation now the KFC xenophobia. Wait, if you have consequences of the planet is compatible, slice the season planet, the opposite of solvency, one fair supply to be competition is any death benefit, including advocacy skills, two practices, and you look to lose security, politics, races, opportunity, classes, trends, subjectivity, and solvency that service to is good cost of critical thinking, reduces passivity, political fixed voters from see, entire outcome compared because hard to not intrinsic to planet impacts, remote the more ways substance towards the subject makes you more, causes suffering, you can't decide when any will dies, and any percent of the theory is wrong means that you should try to live again now, according to the old souls, links for camp conference, helps the smoke from the government, this is planet, the age of the old, is the all according to the plan with the mindset of the old. Now, unaccountable military AI turns Little South into a new frontier for colonial violence, increases violence against Little South, as well as black and brown populations, scarcity, anti-AI, let's produce unleashing AI, of course, anti-AI, with the proper word, global senses, all vulnerabilities, but the only government is colonization countries, turns the reservoirs and steps of the Jewish, second to life, government, situation, no one's really responsible government, so we're going to $2 million, safety military, you may have institutionalization, North Man, bringing the race responsibility of FSB, and now, Brooklyn links, no link, we are saying the U.S. is the problem for developing laws, and it's the difference between, there's also an obvious difference between describing Chinese action and mythologizing it, which is saying that China is trying to get laws because the U.S. got there first. That obviously doesn't prove that they were a mythologized entity, that we should not try to describe in nuanced ways. Also, claiming that Chinese threats are good or construction is only bad if untrue, or evidence says the predictive models are improving, which means that our authors have to be disproven first, and the chances that they're accurate are pretty high, seeing as their experts and threat groups are accurate because of predictive models. The alternative cannot solve finding the standing of container and COVID groups, anti-Chinese fears making threat con inevitable, but if they overcome all of that, then permutation do we have to end those instances of Chinese subjugation must be criticized. Being told that China does not support anti-Asian hate or uphold the yellow peril, most of Chinese government feels probably like their system deals with their good any person Chinese whether it's supposed to be anti-Asian hate, any leadership was worried us to conflict and violence, Asian hate, whether we're supposed to be with China one group, resist resistance to the use of the security HR, these are the backlash to the relations Chinese people with China here with the nation because the crisis of regime is China Chinese stars. I'm trying to influence also people Chinese symbols of Chinese stuff. I'm trying to do some research on all Chinese civilizations. It's trying to between the vast variety of research built on our that our fights to research how we're speaking with the Chinese teachers and how one he resist the series of laws. He said the overcorrect scholar and 5% of kind of theory and the disease side theory versus disease try and release what one is the reversing the neck to really able to try to people trying to theory when you see so they were consistent and can be for the purpose of argument interpretation multiple has to show for the context speech rather than play there's systems for the words of it interested in the exhibit both debates that worse as a basis to heavily favor empiricism takes me to having some percent of the solution of research from the evidence takes versus reversing the system before the identity multi and knowledge is important for credibility of all function. Now they said imperial denial and said it obviously does not apply this hard side anti-Asian racism generally in society nothing about laws or person and that's the threshold for everything or this quo obviously some the all feels one globally cannot solve any other country foreign companies and billions of other people who can also take on anti-Chinese sentiments and they cannot automate its voter international MSI private actor via destroys AFF and skills fairness choose Philip they cannot change elites military or any country globally it takes too long by the laws remoting constitution condoms but our advanced election versus contradictory positions to excuse our time and structure to dismiss also their offense now the critique of state would quantify framework independently depending AI governments is vital to the future of humanity across the United States so long as transparency AI governments not just governments just encouraging presidents going to take the industry to AI where the risk community was made to what do not you guys deal with losses to find the law is used to try on capacity also with the leading country with some instance of the season try off to get along discussion to the where they volunteer the better rules out close to that side I don't think that will also find that how to see if AI new where we still applies and current to both he also mentioned came from the scope from government of the sea after the age of the old to see all the current to the place through the mindset of the old laws make the old impossible use finger is so that you can listen to this the humans who are up to attack you to one of the programming until it's where the children do the children I can move from this programming to the actual thing with the elements to receive to arguing at that this very person of the age of the action without understanding I know we're trying to take the other that you like the situation that you can use business in your culture and say what's in the global imperialism now this is human order no like complaints legal personhood for the sake of pragmatism not moral personhood in a sense as a lower moral group subject is also inevitable they can't solve global species sometimes and the fact that people hurt animals all the time one person challenges anthropocentrism but not these personifications is access political realism for the argument of humanity also to whatever you see where it's not humanity the most person more than human vulnerable they're all competing with the offers actually to really non-human for that those types of work for the non-humans and possibly non-humans for most of the constitution without representation now the secret card no extinction the only impact was the environment that's wrong 2020 there's a one of the messages of coming by access to all the serious the way we see that millennials are talking about that this is the most hard to provide quality especially the cause of the extinction with the rest of the CUTU and it was tag economic systems do not have ontological structures or psyches. Below the state of 20, the office of the series, one of the capitalism has been sustained by the desire for the action of social network, the agency system, and all system, the economic system, the recording, the system, the repression, the will cause the system, the aliens, the capitalism, no, automatization, the marches, the revolution of the evolution of emotions, the institutional material source of capitalism, but inability to celebrate their source of the exercise, trauma, everything, every class of things, something the capitalist roots of the capitalist also the meaning, like that, hypnotic, symbolic space, independent, high activities, logical contradictions, humans that way, with all the 16 years of American position, faces unique theory, the mind is ability to understand whether people be there, something, methods, impulses, substitutions, the process of self-determination, social and muscle, emotions, emotions, but now present, able to concentrate, which is a complex and cultural, part of our rising culture, all of the division, maybe the shifts, the human actors, both the romantic, social, emotions, cultural, like all this, and also the escalation, zero substances, is coming to give us a very good image of the habits, having habits, which really cognition, emotion, processes, zero, because we're determining some of the experts, and ability, conversations, the happening, this is where the most custody, the versus achieve emotions, and the ones that's one culture, values, or reason, solution, concept, or reason, there's mind, and the parts of the helping somewhere, harming with the agency, experience, you make so many counts by the app, is the DHCL, the rejects, personally living laws, unaccountable, change must be materials, actually, window, there are other things with our ideas, the existence of apply the bullets, the theories from the ideas, so the people of our also the practices, not to call the idea of bad, or the other, certain bad, also the process of our cases, the process, the all theories are upright, the theories are still being that there's some politicians for this, your values, your critical policies, just the losers, we see the policies, she goes from super policies, meeting, but any other line, I'm saying, just not sure, and also just all member of the plans to get a pin, to affect with all, also some super cross, literal global anesthetic mindset should feed out, which links to the theory argument that we read on the other page now, the DA, the plan cells, one results were functionally banned, which stops AI from being liability, shield from process, future, negligent, or purposeful, use of AI for violence results in human liability, even the US can be liable, its government students cannot be liable unless we give AI some person and resource, close liability, offers to 16, AFWs are unique, and obviously without some possible features to provide the existing without person for processing, okay, whether person will fully AWS is equally 7 years, but I love it because the need to leave person quickly, the AWS about accountability, which is the comfortable level of existence of the law, also mean the way to really that value as user compensating issues, harms, their uniqueness, the term, when we see straight from mediating humans are already out of the loop, when efficiency maximizing it, in terms of humans, too structurally, even when in the loop, humans are incapable, autonomy bias, and these things like policy, humans are useless in the loop because of those reasons, and no uniqueness other areas like finance, medicine, government, and humans out of it, and no impacts to cyber thousands of attacks per year should obviously come, and the US will never retaliate because it's not in our doctrine.
You want to read that one? All right, on the xenophobia, okay.
Objectivity is redeemable and good Jones for the common sense for those who are objectivity and flexibility and neutrality except that if knowledge programs are better, and that ability to other research knowledge inherently critical of the ideas and critical social authorities on that if critical that is all the process of the press you can do social critique of the ability of teachers to also also get explanation really expressive bodies from is already ideology because ideas from the social action critically applications that you're not used for more information the oppressor essentially from research and objectivity because of also ideas that person the person must be seen with us all different oppressor this level what's very oxygen provides all because but the best interest in the best sense of philosophical realistic science provides an alternative.
Yeah, I got it.
We're just gonna take crosses.
Send the card. They're taking it.
3 minutes. What are reasons to reject?
Epistemic international private equity.
Which one is that on?
It applies to all the cases.
I think it was red.
On Stiegler?
It was red on xenophobia.
Where's Conda?
It was on
Also xenophobia, yeah.
What was the last thing for Jones?
Yeah. 10 minutes. Who's going off in that other room? You know who that is?
Can't tell.
It's sort of seems like it's worse.
The other.
I think it's Kieran. It's definitely Kieran. Okay. 8:40. Yeah. I'm gonna go to the bathroom first.
It's the whole rule though. Yeah, it's called round 2 done. No, you can just read off. Okay, the Twinsy set. It's the Stiegler K, the liability DA, and then the case. Great.
Yes.
You say Stiegler liability case?
Yeah, kicking the Stiegler K, going for the DA.
Don't reveal
It's
this. Don't ruin the
in the
fun.
doc. Connor's in the doc.
Don't ruin the fun.
I think it's fun anyways. Yeah?
Okay. Fine. Go ahead.
We go when we did one night flexing competitive equity, they promise same person, same bias, infinite prep time to get to pick the topic of the debate, especially for this topic. Then there will always be so duels. We had to ask specific research, second law, prove the accountable design, prove the plan is good, third information processing, multiple option, fourth CC, efficiency, ideological flex is the only way to get the accountable in the same round, and fifth innovation to enter risk averse and having fallback charges, and the able smoke, breaking your arguments, defense, time, stress, use inevitable, second or model solves, have choice, because straighting distance law, with the box there's reasonability or concede reasonability from the other procedural page, THC3 debates are infinitely regressive, and foreclose it, dissent. The plan gives rights and duties to AI. This means that they can be sued, which gives developers liability, show which causes dysfunctional harm for a harmful AI. The impact of cyber war. The BOW evidence says that unintended consequences would occur. Fast quo is fine now, which is their vulnerabilities now claimed. It's a question of development. This quo is well designed and have preventative measures that worse development also means that hackers would have easier times that warp evidence answers their evidence, which says that it would go nuclear. There's no impact defense to this, and poor AI design causes cybersecurity message chatter. And 21 of those are crossed. If you have a software cannot become the savings when cybersecurity risk insuitable. Yes, this is vulnerabilities are poorly designed AI. Multiple security compromise, cascading collapse, causes global hotspots, including subsea reactor, meltdown, extinction, Malware 21, let us make a system risk in one cascade had crashes highly probable into the mid-20s system action morph into outright anarchy, rising national system COVID, deceleration, most flooding of the 08 nuclear plants, also economy structures, both the biggest threats to the environment. Another is Chernobyl, Israel, China, then Pakistan, nuclear war, NATO, Russia, AI. Now they say the plan solves and AI is onsafety. How is unique this year? AI construction. This solve is safe now because of liability, which means that programs are incentivized to be held accountable. But new programs are being developed with cybersecurity as a key consideration. If they read evidence on that, the 1 year called 22 manufacturers are becoming more aware of cybersecurity leaders across all industries are taking note of cybersecurity. Companies of cybersecurity defense mechanisms on the list are becoming much more aware. Manufacturers are integrated connected to data systems. Attack surfaces great. So effective cybersecurity becomes holistic across the entire organization. Surround secure new hardware. Design of cybersecurity and cybersecurity and enables zero trust security to zero navigation framework is less scalable data appreciate AI models allowing developers and media trust. There's converging interest now. That's chapter 22. The critical infrastructure is often made by private sector and build with server text both AI will exacerbate risk when aspects of cybersecurity means systems converging needs to implement cybersecurity into AI design. US mentioned safety consideration cannot be used as after must be an equal part of the daily designs. Effort for AI safety increasing. Then major companies industries is rare. Then some game melted efforts were made to not landscape of research to ensure AI safety. Research is presented. We get to turn it off. This is just the beginning of partnership with AI includes AI, CCLU, and Amazon, able to team on Google, Facebook, IBM, and OpenAI. Those were this will ensure AI will benefit humanity. They say current liability cannot solve laws, but liability is very clear now. This is the best evidence I've ever seen. GWP
B20A will never be typical to a person's states of compensation rated not important. There are many products very complex super supply chains make responsibilities to make for which legal frameworks exist. There's something inherently different about AI. So the legal person would be avoided. The legal person for AI is voted. Every AI product or service will be associated with a greater person or business entity that can be held liable. They say that human liability is quote and they can't turn it, but our whole point is that it's clear. Now it's also this is literally half a link. It's evidence that it's this quote, but humans can be held liable. There's evidence about developers. It goes on to say that you can still hold officials accountable. The government's evidence is relevant. The card says that they should be made to pay reparations, not that the AFF can hold AI liable. It's not about person. It's not about person either. They did not get a card in the 1 hour about this because this is just the way I see these piece of evidence, and it's clear how to determine AI liability under the current legal regime. Ever 20 emergency new technologies that need to change the liability. Law will be required to responsibility despite contrary to technical conditions that survive on changing technology does not lead to legal vacuum. Even liability, regulation, anti-discrimination. The best example is liability for autonomous vehicles since keeper vehicles level 1 health corporations and injury or damage to so one of them the vehicle which driving the problems have confidential intelligence. Unclear liability regime. This co-causes cooperative efforts to build the safety the design process necessity in 20 director of individual invisible liability concurs and risk providers and users to work collaboratively prevent harm. The rules created feedback for motivation data tone and user back to cooperate may force parties to engage transactions aimed at minimizing liability. Cooperation may require companies to make different choices in the responsibility, reversibility, or designing the funds for accountability in the company's incentivize take great care of minimizing the risk of development of deployment and controlling the cross-border in order to minimize liability. We're holding corporations liable, all causes them to improve an employee and hold AI accountable, which solves the notion of human AI accountability. The scientists in 20 liability should prevent corporate misconduct by raising the cost of violating the law. The threat to induce corporations to present business work carefully. This means additional complex programs like the employee training, monitoring designs, algorithms less likely to break the law, subsequently diversifying engineers more capable programming, more mindful selection of training data, and more monitoring the software, more monitoring and software updates. Though the threat of liability can make precaution cheaper than taking a violation. Next evidence says that it literally says that humans can be liable, which means that which is irrelevant. The next line says that it says that in the UK they are held, which means that, and they said that they would model on this of the G evidence, whatever it is. It's also from 2018. You should alter GWP evidence, which is from 22, and says that the only thing that would cause the sole thing that would cause the complex complexity in the law is legal person and humans are held liable. Now this is the status quo. Our evidence is that liability has existing legal framework which is sufficient to solve it. This next piece of evidence is about international law, not civil law, which answers the war towards evidence as well. It's not our scenario. Our scenario is that civil law and private protections would incentivize corporations to do risky things at best. It says that torts can heal, and this quote is not about the app at all. It's certainly not. It's really definitely not a link turn, but I'll do a link here. Yes, the link here. The app causes broader liability shield for corporations, and it's possible to limit liability or in 17. It would be a far more complicated grant rights for agency delegation of responsibility for machines that have far-reaching consequences outside of the battlefield of robots. So it tells us that it will prevent them from defendantly. The plaintiff suggests a difficult argument that robot is moral agent in all cases, but not others. Initial legal rationale causes slippery slope for future expansion. Having 21 persons for the basis of legal action to yearly tell more or less charge will be involved in its initial slope. It can be except beyond intended dramatic consequences. The U.S. motive is guaranteed. Self-interested actors will use the law for liability avoidance as precedent. 17 makes more for legal persons have obligations as well as rights to inevitably arise situations where interfere with our rights of humans and persons. Solutions seem clear liability obligations, but if they meaningless. There's no way to hold accountable. It's not that there is above the might arise as humans using robots insulate themselves from liability and human actions seek to exploit that for selfish ends through the law. Then shield themselves from consequences. The byline will be impossibly vague and heavily criticized, opening the door for other applications that were leading 21. This ground is highly questionable liability. It's an hour for the guidance for determining criteria that are vary from one case to another. Uniformity is not desirable. And absolutely clear innovation category would give rise to simple uncertainty, but application of the liability would open the floodgates of litigation, considering the modern should be a system interface with neutral law specifically for AI. This is your consensus when we spilling over to other areas. It's home in 18 inherent ambiguity of the wrath of AI, which universal seduction outbreaks the one major hurdles to practicing regulatory content law was rates unsettled with concrete obligations and different issues will take time. Yeah, it's intertwined with data privacy rights, civil rights to devolve this as other considers at the core of understanding AI, the function of judicial evidence and the significant role of litigation. This next evidence is not this evidence is this said human and belief this is not about oversight but about proper development. We have evidence about corporate incentives, which says that the incentive to profit means that they would take advantage of the plan. This is not justified in 1 AR cards as well. Now some more evidence. One incentive to dramatically reduce breaking current liability genes and tax oversight in 18. A person that suggests they're not merely potential dangers of your person defining ability is ability to sue and be sued. Absolute ability is not illegal. Corporations exist on the physical world. It exists on the paper. AI on the physical world, not subject to inherent limitations, potential for greater time and costs get to recognizing AI with corporations. Humans are pulling the lowest decision to outcome the result of the action involves high cost of error and medical negligence of security transactions. Humans should remain responsible. Mark that evidence set responsible. The the inevitable 1-year cards on the link turn, I'll preempt them. 1, corporations have structural incentives to dodge regulation and ignore public pressure, maintain standards. They'll always deal with restrictive thing legally required, and the plan directly enables their malfeasance as child and leave 21. Corporations have incentive to ignore public limit and shift the regulation. This interest groups have an extreme influence on policy making these actually system to do less creations and liability shows the agency elaborate transferring deserves for blame of the system. Corporations that choose to implement superficial measures they appear more ethically aligned than they actually are. Liability accomplishes nothing. We can't influence like robot incentive structures. The Guerrero, this Guerra and 22 many charges will require obligation to toward nature bases robots with reverse to legal rules. Refer to human-focused concepts such as willfulness and the duty to act God honestly and in good faith. In good faith, no longer will fit need realities for robots. Human, other humans and robots are enslaved from self-insured initiatives not to determine methods of financial legal liabilities and their personal freedoms and both are at stake. Case. But negative presumption there's zero chance the AF can terminally solve escalation due to AI. The AF only applies to AI weapons. The definition is irrelevant. Those are only small subset of AI obligations in the military that physically target and engage in. There are terminally escalation about the use for AI for surveillance. That's not just targeting algorithms, but also general use of AI for data collection purposes. Even if it's disconnected from attacks, all those things can cause escalation. As per their own evidence, AI weapons is one application of it. Other uses undermine the nuclear stability. Sure, and 21 otherwise weapons are one application of AI. And most of your other uses affect in significant ways. This include AI, robotic systems, improvement, intelligence collection, analysis, strategic decision making, and control, command system, robotics, and undermine nuclear deterrent. AI will have wide range of applications. These can target specific application of autonomous weapons, and there's no accountability gap for data waves. There's literally no status interest in deploying full AWS, AAA, and 20 weapon systems engaging targets made incorporates significant human control and targeting. The critics have weapon systems seem concerned. However, there's legitimate military rationale for pursuing different weapons that cannot be controlled. The states express interest in pursuing fully autonomous weapons. Major military concerns of stated publicly do not use as need to be fair for human control and no impact. That's no impact. Culture and 22 evidence does not support the idea of removing a drone revolution. Empirical analysis shows that drones are not routine military balance does not have equalizing effect or not eliminated close combat factors. Neglecting debates about drone forward for the military operations to enhance proficiency, a close market evidence and enhance efficiency. A kill switch solves this place and 28 elements cut off from C2 and the same other belief is restored preventing AF force under military maintain notable conduct. Yeah.
Okay, so can you explain the link, like what's the process of AF and then AI?
So the AF gives AI duties. That duty for AI would be snagged by corporations because corporations would realize now that AI can be held liable in court, they would not have to be held liable for things that they otherwise would develop.
So
that causes corporations to do risky things and develop bad AI.
So if corporations and developers purposely, or accidentally or negligently misprogram the AI, they are liable for a suit. It's negligent suits. Why do those not have them?
So negligent suits are the status quo. I'm glad you pointed that out because it means that uniqueness is going to filter all these questions. But our argument is that it's just going to complicate. It's going to complicate and enable them to.
Why is it?
It's not just complication of the law. The second argument is about perception of companies who would actively do things that are bad.
Okay, I have a question about the first part. Why would it be complicated? You just said that they would program massive instances of abuses and misuses in AI. It would obviously be easy.
Okay, that's not an argument. Our argument is that corporations would use the AI as a liability shield, which means that the way in which the law.
You just said that
they would be. It's not about them being successful. Our impact is about developing bad cyber. Bad cyber development would cause war.
Successful at developing bad cyber.
No, that doesn't make any sense, Kelly. The whole premise of the dissent is not about whether or not the corporations will get away with it or not. It's about whether or not they develop cyber that is safe or not.
The other question that I had is the plan implements restrictive duties on AI. We've specified that that's a ban. Why does that not solve it?
It doesn't solve the dissent. Wait, what do you mean? Okay, you have to tell me why it solves the dissent. Why does it solve the dissent?
Well, because there's no liability shield. Like the AI doesn't exist. You can't make the AI.
Why does that solve the dissent?
The AI is decommissioned. There's no hacking
There's
of
no
the AI.
hacking. Like, the AI can't be misused because it doesn't exist.
Well, that doesn't solve our link argument, which is about
Okay,
corporations
so
receiving it as a shield.
Okay. The other question I had was on case. You read this argument. So wait, what were the case arguments that you read? The card set. Did you read
The two impact defense cards and then the AT accountability card.
Okay. The other question I had was on the top level of the DA. You kind of just randomly read this Wagner card. It's about economic shocks. Like, what does that have to do with DA? Like, there's no line in here about.
It's about grid collapse and
Where?
cascading. Our GW evidence or BW evidence from the 1AC says that cybersecurity risk would cause financial systems to collapse.
So here's a question. Why is this not found? Quote, a global financial collapse of previously unprecedented scale is highly improbable by the mid-2020s. It seems like it's inevitable.
It's not inevitable. Our argument is that
highly probable. It's going to happen.
it's not going to happen. I mean, this is just baby impact defense. The whole point is that financial systems will cascade.
if
Yeah, and that's-
cyber developments are
Where does it say that?
exposed. That's our 1 and C evidence.
Okay, but you read another card that.
This is evidence. This is evidence about why econ decline causes war. Yes. So the one could get in the stocks.
It's just a xenophobia kid.
Right. Yeah, ready?
Just a xenophobia case.
Wait, is there?
The 2AC was saturated with arguments about why the AFF as a political action is good. This is not responsive when we are critiquing their scholarship and positions as advocates in the face of China. It also means that you should bracket off any arguments about the identities of Kelly or Rafa. They are relevant and our best bolsters of our offense because from Taiwan arguments are equivalent the same. Social location should be a reason to erase any responsibility for racism, which is a moral hazard that breeds irresponsible and violent politics. Yarrow, Pearl, and COVID has mutated into fever pitch of anti-Asian violence. This drives the trope of Asians are pathological to the health of rightness, which legitimates their exclusions and secularization. Orientalism overturns the capacity to think and act because it taints and yellows the social dispersity in white society. Silence, xenophobia, especially slides under cautious registers, creating a cognitive bias in debate to apply anti-Asian violence while simultaneously embodying judges and debaters to perform a silent erasure and expulsion of representatives of color by docking speaks based on vocal inflections, tonal shifts, and accents, or pathologizing us for speaking out against white parameters that predetermine what conversations are about. This is the reason why people feel comfortable spitting, pissing, and coughing on Asians because they're already interpolated as disease. It is the reason media and politicians call COVID the China virus, and it's the reason the 1AC is going to lose. 2 implications. 1, invert your impact calculus. Anti-Asian violence is wiped out of the social imaginary because it's never seen as important enough, which denies the legacy of colonialism, xenophobia, massacres, and internment that sought the violence and expulsion of Asians. Especially now, when there are nearly hundreds of reports of anti-Asian violence a week, you have to categorical imperative reject publicity. 2, it turns the AF and the alt solves, even with guardrails and AI, preserved incentives inevitably occur because of silent pursuing versus China. The T frame, blah, blah, blah. AF must justify the horizon of politicals, not just their policy. This makes AF forth from the exterior instructional forces that influence. 1, the mechanism, and 2, the implementation of the AF. Debate is a pedagogical training ground before its political form. Fiat mysteries the benefits and present to the policy research, but debate excels at playing what types of valid and political possibilities should be affirmed and exported. You don't have the power to set the agenda for the government, but you do have the power to set the curriculum and uplift the voices that are wiped out of the space. They see fairness. 1, if Richard DA calling this K unfair is the problem. It proves the AF fails to contemplate the lives of Asian people who are individually sutured to the plan, but aren't seen as important, especially proven by Mitch's strides towards politics, which routinely silence the live realities and concerns of people of color in favor of legal and horse race debates. This turn, dogmatism causes endangers and inclusive denialism that pedagogy that doesn't fit into their expectations for what should be the norm and causes serial policy failures because it creates a single monopoly that excludes police to critique key to holistic knowledge. 2, pedagogy outweighs voting versus slurs and racism. Prove debate as a community value epistemology over fraternal norms. 3, it's fair. AF gets infinite prep to decide justifications first and last speech and choose the focus of the debate, which means they should be prepared. 3, not an intrinsic good. A doesn't prescribe value. We can agree with competitive norms while disagreeing about our racist norms, but this also means you should all defer. Neg, if we win, we increase minority access. B, all causes research, coaching, and time to undermine fair prep and consultation. 4, AT for that stuff above. Our interp isn't you link, you lose. 1, particular turns learning about the real world that was above. 2, rhetoric outweighs consequences aren't defense because you had to construct research, justify, and pursue the method for your app. These choices and composition shape modelization of plan and are critically analyzed for arriving at understanding app scenarios, which means the link takes out weighing the case. They say picks and utopian fiat. That's not our all. The case disagrees with the app's rhetoric and how it arrives at its solutions. The all is distinct from the plan and shouldn't be weighed the same way. It's justified by conduct. Cross apply. At case outweighs. 1, K outweighs. That was outweighs. 2, sanitation DA, 2AC, 1, 3, and 4 all lives matter. Logic equivalent to output disease rhetoric about China at the start of COVID and abstinence fears used to justify shootings in Asian neighborhoods. Everyone set on fire in New York and thousands of other hate crimes in the past few months. 3, no subject for mission. I'll extend the oath here. Don't fear contamination. Debates sanitary academic production depends on denying the way of statutory of Asian anti-Asian violence.
Stop. And then go to the part.
Okay.
It's ATPDB.
Okay. ATPDB. 1. Whitewashing DA apps claim that the perm shields the link to the K is the equivalent of admitting racism, but them justifying it because the NEG called it out. 2 impacts. A, it's a political form of racializing the extraction and exploitation of the labor and trauma of Asian debaters when they're exposed to racial violence. And B, allows those who perform that violence to seek redemption instead of accountability, which senses white conformity instead of those harmed. This means even if we win the content of particular outcomes of the K and F are compatible on the level of form, the permanency refuses one culpability suffering. B, gracious full NEG says pointing fingers causes their impacts. Turn case 2AC, Garcia 19. AI government cannot. Okay, blaming each other will now helps since unfettered and armed AI is available in whatever form and shape to friend and foe like confrontation turns into self-fulfilling prophecy. Cross apply the above to the other premise they apply. The 2AC is incredibly defensive here when we are reading a critique. Okay.
Legitimize violence.
Okay.
Legitimize violence.
Okay. One impact is legitimate violence. Silent racism creates compulsion to view orientation as politically neutral, which encourages pointing fingers as long as they're not voiced out loud. This is equivalent to Biden saying we need better housing because China lacks good welfare. Remember, pointing a finger.
I'm thinking still not. Yeah.
Did you sign it? Well, I guess we didn't wait for the judges. It doesn't matter. Huh?
Just kind of stared you down a little bit.
Sorry.
That's okay.
It was not intentional.
Uh-oh.
When you were like, you can't do it, and then we walked past you outside, and I saw like you and Andy saying something. And I go to Kelly and I was like, you know, they might say something else. All right.
I was afraid. That was making it obvious. Yeah.
What was making it obvious?
The fact that Ruby, Julian, Aiden were all, huddled around.
I mean, we were like, Julian could be in Buddhism. That was our first thought. Because you had hyped that up before. But we weren't sure either way. But we considered it. Okay, doc should be sent. It's the case, the K, the DA. All right. Everyone good?
Yes, sir.
Outside.
Something there.
Good?
No.
Sorry. I couldn't hear. I wasn't sure. Just like.
Yeah.
Presumption cuts both ways, either disproves over because the plan is so narrow or applies broadly but is solvent either way. There's still an impact. CRS says autonomous weapons include targeting if the plan restricts stopping physical strikes is still good enough though because it's the key capability adversaries fear loose evidence is the plan builds method for other countries to suggest restrictions that builds up the broader band because when you start small and have to walk before you can run, air after clarify and defend the plan for broadly integrated connection with their solvency evidence. It says it is enough for great strong term because you would want to be associated with weapons even if only some of them are restricted. Yes, drone impact with the equipped chemical biological capabilities of power evidence describes status quo drones, not ones that are interviewed with AI, which overcomes barriers. The closest form assumes you can control the AI, which the case begs the question of and takes out their cyber because you can kill switch systems before they cascade. The critique, no impact, no link. It's all unexplained assertion that can be contextualized in any of our arguments. When he criticizes anti-Asian violence by restricting a tool the U.S. uses to win the arms race they dropped, describing the behavior of the Chinese government is not a normative judgment that says how Asian people should be treated. They dropped a hung evidence that criticizing the government itself is also emancipatory because you shouldn't conflate the two. Don't invert your impact assessment or Calhoun evidence says this overcorrects and falsely smears all dialogue makes it impossible to describe geopolitics in accurate terms. Framework rate the case against the competitive vault. They have to have links to the plan, defense, solvency. They drop it with 3 yards. That means they can't do that. One, fairness, rise in politics is ad hoc and unpredictable. It says our for victory too high. But then they criticize him, motives, and implicit themes. The one I see that are arbitrary, which minutes to the case. Amherst values fairness too, not. But Apple endorsing their scholarship to get brand new arguments to the DA as well as an infinite minute to an R. Their first and third answers are circulars, so we're to seek is there a tavern violation that we get DQ'd for. And they have to prove what we did is just as bad as that. Second is pragmatism. The critique is you link, you lose in disguise. The sacrifice is imperfect, but necessary changes in the alter ethical purity trains advocates to be nothing more than critics who snipe and fixate and hidden motivations and discourse but never implement their ideas, which makes us politically hollow advocates. That's Jones' case outweighs Newport intensifies anti-Asian violence and is irreversible and no sanitation DA because we're criticizing the status quo. Permutation do both, not whitewashing. It includes their critique of objective xenophobia. No Jones' case, the French will be forgetted. They haven't contested our internal link, so you know it's not a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're legitimizing violence. Impact was unexplained. Begs the question of the link to the card. This is essentially just word salad. Now the DA top level zero link. The plan prohibits AI. The duties are ones of restriction, mandating non-use of AI weapons. It solves link because AI is never developed and means the systems do exist are shut down. This is not spin. You can command after the phrase decommission endeavors, and it appears there are no cyber war. One, Imperial hundreds of attacks every year, including SolarWinds in 2020, the Yahoo attack in 2014, and in Korea hacking Sony, non-trick retaliation. That is especially true for AI-based attacks because there's no individual country to attribute to, so who do you retaliate? Again, second is restraint. It'll stay in the gray zone. The U.S. is no incentive to necessary attacks at the nuclear level because they can keep them in the cyber domain that works to respond to hackbacks, but both already have intended to avoid escalation. Schneider describes AI design as supplying ends, no retaliation ever. Tucker 18's race from a population of tech, nothing to kill enough. Broke response is not resulting in tens of thousands of deaths. Textual brief for history and actual. The fighting divorce attack does not mean the threshold is going up, not down. Following officials want a lot of questions answered. The Mava card deletes the DA. The Bruce Stumpers. It says hacks are inevitable internationally. The middle part says financial costs is coming now. Triggers hacks. Thumps the impact totally separate from the AI. It's an econ impact, not a great impact. No clue why. They embedded, but no impact anyway. New 19 mission. Misses in a war field divided 4 stages. Working on any stages for expansion, crisis recovery, recession. So it is unable to consume more any stage resources and reform wars against repression. More acquisitions into all stages. More to down pressure with the S6 recession or prosperity when they occur. Then upturn cost optimism to prevail. The no empirics are F. No escalation. Fair the Mazda 18 switch shakes. So by hyperbolic protectors, limited observation of public scam, investigation that produce the opposite. Yeah, now it's all present data, fake data, pundits, and jump on the doomsday narrative. All the key systems are air gaps and won't be connected. Fucker 16. It is highly unlikely that not the U.S. Russia's plans are to undermine the secret possibilities. Cyber player state notion of power. We have the little to help understand your references here. The rest of the ball an air gap from the wider internet. Now, no uniqueness. There's no liability for humans now. They're not responsible for behavior of AI. Since the black box, the plan is only lost, so no other systems are in the sector are covered or changed. They're cold, shackleford, and evidence all take out the DA. They see companies. Then governments want to regulate AI, so they won't take advantage of the liability shield. The plan turns the link. They're assuming we're AI liability. 4 quotes from 1AC prove that it's wrong. 1, Geber says the human could, quote, be liable because they did, quote, nothing to stop the AI. 2, it says the doctrine of liability, quote, responding superiority to the military commander responsible for the harms perpetrated by their subordinates. Reference 3, Kruby says personally, let's just, quote, attribute responsibility to developers, end quote. 4, it also says the, quote, DOD is on the hook for, quote, war crimes, end quote. What they're missing is although the duty is borne by the AI, the liability is vicarious, attaches to a human, substantiated develop or solves the evidence or cross of evidence. Says this closes the liability gap and makes redress easier because the military internalizes the costs of unsafe systems. The link turns their impact. States have every incentive to make sure the weapons aren't vulnerable to cyber attacks, so they'll shape up instead of just randomly going rogue. No slippery slope, no linking for new corporations. President rights AI might also, however, timing the rights to granting process, slippery slope, laws, not static, intervention, minimize effect, always possibility for reversal, the right to rise. There are also benefits responsibilities. If you're denied to have a 20 no person enjoys all rights and obligations as person companies have a lot of limited rights. They do not receive protection. The 14th are in public office, married. There are other rights. All do not require to receive more rights afforded to persons. The investigations are totally separate. Declaration 28 are they're complex. All rights are not identical. And the insurance mistake results from assumption of rights being human rights to reach rights to one category of machine is not equivalent to another as possible. Human rights imagining all of HR, robots and right privacy, but including rights to one right does not mean that we should also give it the right to vote. The link evidence is hilariously from our wiki, but also inapplicable. Warren describes moral agency and giving judgeships to AI. Helm evidence assumes liabilities on the AI itself. Bryson describes right standing. No part says that's the plan. Now, the link turn preempts eliminate the DA1. The plan has nothing to do with corporations. It's about military, house, the public sector. So only they have their liability. Second, the child evidence the Thunberg says, quote, corporations ignore public input and regulation, so they wouldn't follow liability if it existed for them in the first place. It's not unique. Wagner 22. Rules of current law not at all provide the full solution performances to locate the agent violates obligations. Doctor argues that rule of vicarious liability does not apply. Arguments not have the capacity to act as an agent or violate liability. Capital and capital not be closed. The culture of duties for human accuracy proposals that specify compensation with strict liability does not avoid liability gap principles. Do not fear risks to digital decision making. Autonomy and capacity bypass liability now on 3640. The divorcee precise behavior a machine designed to follow past the computer will undertake out a clear producer can be called upon as well. Maybe undermined by others to use the machine for a certain way the machine cooperates with other agents. No capacity to patent and opaqueness make obey the current responsibility is satisfied proof of risks detrimental consequences borne by society.
Okay. Which card did you read before Monterassi, and then which card did you read before the blue impact defense?
So I read everything under the AT cyber header.
Okay, but which card did you put before this econ defense?
Well, the order was different. I read Tucker first and then the econ card. But all the cards under the header were read. The only ones that I did not read were Bafi, which is the last one under uniqueness. Yeah. And then the two ones under...
You read something in between Becker's and Monterassi.
Like, I don't know the exact order. I can give you all the cards that we read.
Okay. Which card did you read after? Which one was it?
So the only things we did not read are AT link triple dash shielding, and then the last card under the uniqueness header. Everything else was read.
There's no card feedback.
Wait, say that again.
So everything read except for AT link triple dash shielding and the last card under uniqueness.
Everything else. Okay.
Everything else was read. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll check to make sure, but I'm pretty confident. Yeah.
We have like 840. How much is it? 8 something.
Yeah, I was saying something.
It should technically be prep, but yeah. Okay. I'll call it 40.
Good. Stop it. My computer is.
Yeah, you're good.
I got 731. I was like 10 seconds.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, there's 2 cars inside. DA case. I guess I'm kicking out of something, maybe. Okay. Fill out the cards. Ready?
1 second. Okay.
Cyberwar causes extinction. The BW evidence has unintended consequences to occur with rapid sex action means that we control the fastest impact to nuclear escalation. The 2C shadow evidence says that poor AI would be vulnerable to security compromise and exposed to cyber risk. The bombic evidence is not a mistake, but it says that cascades into global hotspots and nuclear gas infection by anarchy, nuclear accidents, mass epidemic collapse, warming, all of which culminate in the extinction. We're the only evidence, evidence that acts as multiple actors around Israel, US, China, NOCO, and back in Russia, all of which go nuclear. Quick collapse, low constitution, West 19 collapse, US collapse, gas interoperative, telecom collapse, finance, as well as technology collapse, water and death in 34 days. Well, food was also left to technology 2% feed, the other 98% no electricity, doesn't provide a for survival, and massive cyber attack. Cyber is more likely. Do not just wait impact. You know, this because it's not going to stay low level. This compared to literally striking other assets. Obviously, our scenario is far more likely. Do not wait. There's solvency versus our internal expanding non-use, and AI never develops. Will never answer our scenario because it would literally be secure on the collapse. And then collapsing the grid and cyber attacks alone would go nuclear all off in 20. The cyber attacks lead to escalation nuclear exchange becoming this was it. And our NVR to 17 world side into crisis is getting out of control. Like she said, next crisis we can control what there's next. Now their AI never develops claim. It's just totally bullshit. Mending and not using AI never develops. Was answered above, but the notion of little security collapse would be irrelevant. The app does not shut down that argument. The logical limits frame that they're never going to try and toe the line on is not the question of the link. The question of the link is that there are no logical limits, but the plan can only limit military AI. That means it cannot solve our scenario, but it causes a liability shield for developers. Also, the plan is too fucking slow because we've already died in a world where vulnerabilities have all collapsed. Now the solar winds and other example stuff is far worse than our evidence. We read Nicole and Weir and Jack evidence all said that there's converging interest and that it's safe. Now they have zero card for indicting all their cyber stuff, flow stuff. One statement that goes in was answered about. The whole point is that cyber is more likely because it's not seen as threatening enough, but it would escalate and draw on other actors. They have no defense to that. And the Melvin was answered about Nercessian. They say all the systems that are air gaps in the modest evidence about empirics. Nercessian evidence says that gas means that there would be some level of cooperation. That Atlantis evidence says that they would go through with
that the no liability for black box argument is stupid. Our whole premise is that there is no notion of line drawing, which I'll do below. But if when uniqueness is defensive advantages, which is a framing issue, because the development is safe enough, so there would be no impact to misaligned AI, but no impact to market competition because of a fear of it. Now they say that they would impose the duty upon person or the duty to do this on the hook. All of that stuff is about the status quo, not about the rule of the plan, where you would not be able to hold it liable if Dr. Complexity warned, which says that the app would only make things more complex, and complexity is a linear argument, which means that liability would only be worse in the world of the plan. The next argument about the slippery self-loss. It's not conclusive. The author also says that expanding person molested inference class conception is inherently costly without threshold. Yes, slippery so. Also, yes, slippery so. Also, this the three pieces of evidence I read. There's no logical limits, which is our Bernoulli evidence, and our precedent evidence is about how unique corresponding duties the app can only turn off military AI, which is explained above, but not other AI, which is relevant for cyber, which is the link. The limited argument only hurts them, not us, which answers the case argument. The empirics are I think the empirics are irrelevant. Empirics are irrelevant argument because the plan hasn't happened yet. The Gulf evidence was preempted because our evidence set is far better on logical limits or on logical limits or evidence that is clear how to determine AI liability under the current legal regime. And the GWP evidence contextualizes that and says that the only thing that can fuck it up is the sole purpose. And now unique is proper. Now unique. They said that the plans about military AI, but that's irrelevant because their argument is that it would spill over to affect a shield for everyone, and that they would perceive it as such. There's no answer to that. They have dropped the. We're the only team that controls how corporations would react to the plan. And that matters for our scenario, which I explained above, which is the framing issue for how you should evaluate the 2 errors. Press the link. Yes, uniqueness. If we need its defensive advantages, which I explained above. Our GWP evidence says that they contextualize the status quo to the plan and says existing legal frameworks can handle all ambiguities, but legal person is the only thing that can mess it up. It's far better than their Beckers and modern rest evidence because it says that it's clear because it says that there are existing frameworks that exist for some level of their evidence is just that it would be hard to develop responses for laws, but their evidence is not as recent as ours. And our evidence is that it says that there are understandings have now or never, and necessity evidence which extended above also said that it would be able to handle it. It would be able to handle it. Now, also the accountability gap argument is irrelevant. AI is not different from other software systems. There's always a supply chain or algorithm that is separate from the human, which answers all the arguments about it being related to the human. AI is not so novel that the courts are falling over themselves. If someone hacks you just hold the developer liable for vulnerabilities, which the court knows. Also, or evidence extended above proof that it's safe now, which is that this is also foundationally irrelevant at worst. If they say that they can, at worst, the last thing I'll answer is that if they say that the app can solve it, it's irrelevant because the link turns a secondary question. When uniqueness means that alignment or some correction of AI is irrelevant because it means that manufacturers AI can just have it soon. Or Elliott evidence says that developers would become irresponsible in engineering safety-wise, which is prerequisite to that. Case. Or kicking the counter plan, or K, premise or test competition. Case. Targeting weapons is irrelevant, or sure evidence says that it can improve intelligence collection, which is far more than targeting is going to influence whole operations. Think of things like where you can actually strike, where you can decide for military operations. That's far more approximate. That's far more approximate than their evidence. Also, our arguments about scope, which is that you cannot just physically target, but internal links about escalation or about using AI for surveillance. Now, there's no impact to AWS, or evidence says that it's not truly autonomous because countries will still want some degree of control. No major power ever stated that they would use of completely autonomous weapons. Drone storms do not constitution. The war was just about firepower that could easily be circumvented by air defenses, and the fact that drones need to be powered by ground forces, so there's no loss of control, which means you should prefer empirics. The last argument I'm going to answer is mediation. It's impossible. The militaries will use automatic close switches so the AI cannot launch weapons by itself. If the AI loses contact, then they would automatically be shut down. And DoD regulations are fundamentally inevitable, which means that it would solve all those things. Also, it would never escalate. Autonomous weapons are a farce, so it's still be controlled by humans because humans have to deploy them in the battlefield to fight wars. So use existing international principles are sufficient to solve accountability. Is sufficient to solve accountability. Look, the 2 errors are going to stand up and say that they solve the dissent and liability, etc. It's irrelevant because corporations are the ones required. The app affects the military. Spillovers are more for us, not for them.
It is.
Kirby evidence makes it clear by invoking respondent superior, a doctrine of clear vicarious responsibility, where the human master must always answer to the crimes of the AI that governs evidence. Says, quote, because the captain did nothing to stop Johnny, the captain too would be liable. The Kirby evidence says, quote, attribute responsibility to development. The Kirby evidence says, quote, the United States government would have to pay reparations to. Instead of states and the military have no incentive to allow national security funding the government at 38. Right? They would obviously rein them in, and companies do not want to shield in this instance. They've dropped that they're overruling incentives to avoid things like war crimes, which means that they will not do so in the long term. Now, the link is zero. Complexity, linear is literal nonsense. Asserting it gets more complicated is not a real argument. Liability in this case would be clear. They said companies become so negligent with AI that it causes systems to collapse and implode. It would be the easiest court case to win in history. They said slippery slope is the complete legal fabrication of disagreement by companies, babies, and fetuses who do not have full personhood. There's no slippery slope because you can limit rights and duties at any point. The king evidence is the courts are pragmatic. They grant rights only when there is a necessity and a reason. There is no reason why it spills over to other sectors. And the Google evidence is the legal justifications are completely distinct. There was no turn or explanation here except for posturing. Yeah, the liability gap is also widening on a massive scale. The turnaround here was an absolute mess. They vaguely asserted that it will be handled without any explanation. It means some assertions are basically without any warrants. Our evidence is that black box capabilities in future extreme autonomy with AI means that it is impossible to attribute it to human context, which means that most of this will be impossible. Lastly, if you go through any of their link cards, you must ask yourself a major question. Do any of these assume an act that holds a human vicariously liable? None actually pass the test. The one in our warrant evidence is regarding what moral agency and delegated to the AI, which is not about us, and the Hunt evidence was about the slippery slope argument, and the zero warrant in that standing in the Bryson evidence is about standing, assuming a world where robots are the only dependents on standing, not the affirmative.
Good debate. Good debate. Paradox?
Yeah, I said no.
I sending it. Okay, it's sent.
You can get it. Yeah. Thanks.
Oh, they're in here. Oh, okay. They're looking for you, I guess. We'll follow.
Well, we're
Partner.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations to everybody. This was a fun debate. The decision is a 3-0 for the affirmative. Okay, I'll go first. The short version of the RFD is that I voted that the app advantage outweighs the disad and mitigation of the DA at the link level is much stronger than mitigation of the case. It's like the encapsulated thing. I'm going to talk about the link first, although I will say like the impact calc stuff actually filtered a little bit stronger in my decision. So I think the main problem on the link is that the 2NR is debated a bit like a 2NC. It's like blisteringly fast following the 1AR. And for me, it just misses like big judge connections. And for instance, like after the 2NR, I tried to remember like what like the link really was. And absent consulting my flow, it was kind of hard to like narratively piece back the story of the way that the plain text that it would spin out would provide this liability shield for developers. And I think in this debate, what's happened is you've kind of let the AFF monopolize the story of the debate, and they've been able to spin the particular legal doctrine and precedent of the AFF as being one that explicitly indicates, in fact, that using AI does not shield the user from liability in various ways, like vicarious forms, doctrines like responding to superior. And I think the NEG link storing is very underdeveloped and not placed into basically direct conflict with this AFF story. And too much is leaned on maybe making assumptions about the nature of a judge that you might have, like, will I go through and read your evidence or have a lot of pre-existing knowledge about legal decisions about liability? Probably no to both of those. So rather, I want you to like simplify things for me, and leaning on phrases like complexity is linear, slippery slope, that's helpful as like it almost like charges something in my memory, you know, like complexity is linear. Because of that, here's how the court case would da-da-da-da, or like, here is that slippery slope. Like imagine someone comes in and does this, the plan provides this precedent which does that, and da-da-da-da, like the way that would play out. But absent that, it's hard for me to like storify narratively how we get from point A to point B to grid collapse. And there's two thoughts I have here about how telling this story might go differently for you. One is that maybe play up the scenario more about the personhood aspect of the link, which was present more in the 1NR in terms of evidence set, not so much story set, or sorry, 2NC, evidence set, not story set. Make it something like, yeah, your particular operationalization might have this like vicarious liability and responding superior, but in order to do that, you have to grant AI personhood broadly, and it is that aspect which is the durable precedent which will be seized upon to protect like telling how that story would go, like interfacing with the story that they're telling. Like, yes, and you know, this actually is our argument because blah. And the second one is maybe playing up more about, you know, our scenarios about developers, their scenarios about use. Like we agree with everything that they say, responding superior, vicarious liability. That's all about the military. It's not about the person developing the AI and then playing that story out about how in a strange way the affirmative might, by saying that the US is the one, and this is the stuff that evidence points to, that even though the United States is the one responsible and one will be sued, it's not like the US is the one developing that AI tech, and that there will be responsible for reparations to the extent that they use it, and maybe you could play up like the black box stuff to be like, the SQO puts a lot of pressure on developers because they're the ones that make the stuff, but if the expectation becomes that the user is now responsible, I don't know. These are just ideas. And that's not to say that that isn't what you're doing. Like I'm not an idiot. I get that like is the DA basically for the 2NR. Both these routes are sort of alive by the end of the day, but just telling it more directly and telling it in such a story where my decision to them would be more like explaining story rather than referencing particular pieces of evidence along the way. I just think that would just serve you better by the 2NR. So I think what you're doing is great for the 2NC, but for the 2NR, basically tell me a tale, a little fireside chat. Okay, and then last, I'm talking too much already. But for the impact level stuff, it's sort of similar in the sense of just like storytelling. I think that although you do have mitigation of the case, and I don't want to minimize that, you know, I think in particular, I think the app needs a better answer to like humans will decide to deploy this stuff, and to the extent that that's true, there's some operational control and supervision. I don't find this like terminally take out because the app scenario is about basically at a certain point, the ratcheting up possibilities will be one where it's not like our AI isn't responding to China anymore, it's responding to the Chinese robots. and that is the unique spiral of escalation, which is bad. So that is a scary prospect, although I agree that there's like some mitigation at this stuff, so I'm not like saying that there's no case. But on the other side of the thing, I just think that the app's characterization of your scenario is very far-fetched, and unlikely to escalate is just really compelling. I thought that the app's empirical debating about here are all the cyber attacks that happened, they were really big, they were really attributed, they didn't go big. The debating through your evidence and pulling out underlying parts about like some of the stuff is about EMPs even. It's like a much larger scenario than you're giving it credit for. And even them playing out like the nature of the, the next generation of warfare as being one about AI makes those attacks less likely. One last side thought about that is, two thoughts. If that's the case, aren't they kind of saying that if we do the plan and we do less AI cyber stuff maybe, then they make it more likely there's attribution? I don't know, that's a thought. And then the second one is that, what does it have to say about hybrid war? One wonders what this does to the advantage as well. This is particularly like we can't attribute to AI after cyber stuff. You could imagine that if there was going to be a hybrid or a AI weapon system thing, it'd be like little green drones versus little red, white, and blue drones. And who's who? Oh, those aren't our drones. Must be a hobbyist. I don't know. So anyway, I just think the F's sort of playing with fire with that thing, and maybe that you could lean on that, like their impact defense to your scenario, actually is impact defense to theirs. But I'm kind of talking up a storm right now, and I will stop there.
I can go next. I agree with everything that was just said. I'll try and touch on some points that were mentioned earlier here. I think the app's debating on the impact level on the DA is pretty incredible, honestly. I think they're doing a lot better job pulling warrants and giving the explanation to you. I don't think anybody's evidence on the cyber impact scenario is particularly great, I'll be perfectly honest. But I do think the app has a few arguments I don't think are directly answered that are in the 1AR. And the first one is the one that is just like, countries are not going to respond and lash out because attribution is impossible in the cyber realm. I don't think there's an on-plan instead of the 2AR extended in the 2AR, so I think that is a form of mitigation they get. I definitely agree that I do think you're doing some decent impact defense work on the case that the app is kind of just brushing aside. But I think something that is doing is they're kind of characterizing the internal link to their app, and they have a lot of evidence that in the context of the deployment of autonomous weapons, I think like the alt causes stuff, and just like, it's used in other domains as well, like Intel and whatnot is definitely good defense. I don't think it is quite terminal, as Ethan just said, in terms of the fact that I think that they still are doing some debating in terms of just like autonomous weapons lead to broad destabilization that can create these sort of impacts, and then they have some pretty specific internal link works, even though I do think you can hedge back quite a bit there. It's just the DAV becomes more of a problem. I think another argument the app has, I don't think was mentioned, was their characterization of link was very good. I don't think you really fight back on the fact that they're just like, they are painting your link as just being about AI being grossly developed in a way that corporations clearly deployed it unsafely. And they're just like, I think they're winning at least some risk of the claim that they're making, which is just like AI liability is not a broad way in which anybody ever can deflect blame. And at the point where they win that claim, it's just like, they have a secondary argument, which is just that corporation wouldn't want to risk it in terms of the impacts of the AFF because it is like military war crime, so that stuff would be pretty bad. And also they also make another argument, which is like corporations wouldn't want to do this because it is the easiest case that you can ever win in court because companies are just grossly being negligent when it comes to developing AI. And I think that's something that kind of gets lost because I agree with what was just said in terms of your link storytelling by the end of the debate, not quite being there, especially in specific contexts. But I definitely agree that I think you're doing good enough on case, given that I think the app is kind of blippi compared to the focus that should be given to your specific arguments. But I'll pass it on to Addison.
Cool. Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I guess I saw the debate a little bit differently than the other judges, but I mean, the only things that I kind of have to add is that I think that the 2AC kind of like really poorly undercovered the DA, and I would have been compelled by some block arguments to scratch off pretty much every impact defense card read in the 1AR, just because I think that for the most part, like all I have on the impact level of the DA is like a line from the 2AC, but there's no impact to cyber without really a warrant attached to it. Maybe I missed it. definitely didn't see a card there, so it feels like a pretty new argument for the 1AR to make. But regardless, that didn't impact my decision that much because I agree with the other judges. I just think that the app, even with the new stuff in there, I think the app is pretty substantially advocating on the contextual level of the impact. And then also, I think that the affirmative did a very good job on the link level of the debate out to the point where I think that the only link that I think that the NEG could potentially win is a spillover link. And I just think that the evidence that the NEG ran just isn't specific enough. Specifically, the 1AR and 2AR are definitely pointing to the threshold for the link evidence should be contextualized to the app where the human is still included in being liable, and how that would specifically spill over to other instances of AI. And I just don't think that any of the NEG evidence is specific enough to that level. So I agree with the app. I'll hold the NEG up to that level. I don't think it meets it, so I don't think that there's a strong link to the app. So I think the risk of the case outweighs the deal.
One more thing I will note for you all, I think you all are doing a pretty good job on the uniqueness portion of the DA compared to the rest of it. You have a framing argument there. You kind of have a framing argument about like how uniqueness should kind of determine the rest of the debate. I don't think it's like as fully developed as it could be, and I also think that they're at least the app is at least doing a good enough job on uniqueness. I give it pretty solid link mitigation impact. And impact work that it becomes difficult for me to just be like, oh, I think they're winning a uniqueness question that there might not be liability now. That means everything they said goes away. But that is, I think, the best portion of debating that you all do with the 2NR. So I wanted to give you props for that.
Cool. I'm good.
Yeah, that makes sense to us. Thank you all.
Yeah, good fit.
Good video, and good luck with the rest of the tournament.
Thank you.